Hello, 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 hello. My name is Nakia. Welcome to my channel. It is officially July. We are done with June, and I have a lot to talk about from my June reading month. So let's just get into it, shall we? So if you watched my June TBR, you know that June was my birthday month, and I really wanted to try to have 4 and 5-star books so that I could have a good reading month. I did not want to be struggling or have months like I did in, I believe, March and don't remember when else. But yeah, we didn't want a repeat of that. So I will say it was mostly good. I had to DNF some books, but getting those out the way, it was good. So let's just get into it. I am going to go from my least favorite books to my most favorite books. So also, I will be updating you on how I did with Kasha's mini Evilathon, the Forgotten Ones. I was participating, so I stretched out a little bit longer than a week, but I still did most of the prompts. So those books will be coming towards the end because those were my better reads, thank goodness. But let's start with least favorite, which for me usually means DNFs. So yes, we have some DNFs. You probably already know. I will start with my first one. I was disappointed in this. It was my foray into a different genre, subgenre, whatever you want to call it, and that's cozy mystery books. This book was one of the books on my TBR list forever, like since I first decided to get back into reading September, October of last year. And that would be Death by Dumpling by Vivian Chen. Yes, this was a DNF. I have to consult my notes to see how far I got. I stopped around page 57, so I don't know what percentage that is. I didn't write that down this time. I talked about this, of course, in my June TBR, and I talked about this in my 21 books I'm most excited to read in 2021 or whatever. It's about this woman named Lana Lee. Her family has a restaurant, and there's this man who owns like the little shopping center that the family's restaurant is in. They deliver lunch to him all the time, and one of the times he ends up dying because he got some shellfish or shrimp or something in his dish, and everybody knows he's allergic. Of course, one of the suspects are going to be Lana Lee because she's the one who delivered the lunch to him that day. So I was so intrigued by this, premise. I was so excited. It started off, we got the murder pretty early on, so I was like, okay. And then after that, it just slowed down. It was just her talking to her mom. She went to the wife of the guy who died. She went to his house, was talking to her and women at that house, and then talking to her friend. It was just a lot of talking. And she met the detective on the case and thought he was cute. And I was like, we're not doing that. We're not here for that. Anyway, and it was just, like I said, it was just too much talking, not enough going on. I mean, like I said, she's a suspect and the chef of the restaurant, the cook. That's all I had. And again, it just was not enough to keep me interested. And I was like, this is my birthday month, so I'm not having fun with it. We're going to move on. And I will say, because this is my first venture into cozy mysteries, this has made me think cozy mysteries are not for me. So if I have any viewers who love cozy mysteries or like cozy mysteries, please let me know in the comments another one that you recommend. This one was not that highly rated on Goodreads, so I guess I should have known. But at this point, I'm just like, I'd rather just read my regular, darker thriller mysteries. But like I said, if you give me some good suggestions, I may try it, because this wasn't it. Moving on. This next one was anticipated more by you all than myself. I did a reading vlog about this one. That would be The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. Yeah. I said in that vlog, and I'm going to say it again here, I should have known that this book was probably not for me. When I first heard about it, backtracking a little bit in case you are new here or you didn't see my previous video, I read his book, The Silent Patient, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars, 4.5. And that book made me realize that I really like books that have to do with therapists and just, when they're investigating a murder or some kind of mystery. But so when I saw the synopsis for The Maidens, that it was like dealing with this professor on a college campus and that he, people think he killed some young ladies on the college campus, I was kind of like, not really my thing. But because it's Alex Michaelides, I'm going to give it a chance. So the more and more I started seeing people talk about it on BookTube and Bookstagram, I was getting a little more excited about it. And I was like, you know what? I like his writing. I probably will like it. We're gonna give it a chance. It was not the kind of book for me. If you go looking here on BookTube, Bookstagram, the majority of people seem to enjoy it. I am in the minority. I talked about this book. I did a detailed synopsis in my June TBR video, so you can check that out. I also really talked about it a little bit more in my vlog, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it here. I DNF'd it at 17%. The woman who was the main character, whose perspective we were reading the book from, her name is Mariana. She is a psychotherapist or some kind of therapist, but she's a little bit of a mess. And for some reason, those kind of characters just do not work for me. But when they're just all over the place emotionally, that just usually does not work for me, because I need you to reel it in and be smart, make smart decisions. And I could tell from the beginning she was not making smart decisions. And another thing, when she shows up to the college campus, because the first young lady who gets killed, this is in the synopsis, is related or knows her niece. So she goes to the college campus, and then she goes to the crime scene and knows one of the people there that are investigating. Not a cop, I forgot who he is. He's like some kind of forensic psychologist, psychiatrist, something like that. Anyway, she knew him from back in the day in school. So he's just talking to her about the case and showing her around. I was like, what in the... She's not a cop. She's not a detective. What? She's on the crime scene with no gloves and no things over her shoes. Just no. So that combined with, like I said, I was bored with being in her mind and her thoughts. She also had lost her husband, and so she kept going on about him and how they met. This was in between the present, and it was just no. So again, not for me. A lot of other people enjoyed it, so you might. Don't go off of me. But if you have similar taste to me, then you might want to skip it. But yeah, sorry. I know I'm disappointing some people, but oh well. I got to do what I got to do. If I don't like it, I don't like it. So moving on to some good stuff. All right, so now we're going to talk about Kasha's mini Evilathon. As I said, the forgotten ones. I went through all the prompts in my June TBR, so I'm not going to do that again. I will tell you which books fulfill which prompts, but I'm not going to go through each of them like I did in that video. But so my first book that's part of this, that was part of this challenge, is The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. Pop it up here on the screen because I read it on my Kindle. The same with The Maidens. I was on my Kindle. If I don't have the physical copy here, I usually get physical copies from my library. If not, I read them on my Kindle. So yeah. Back to The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. This one was on my list for a while. It does take place around Christmas time, so some people who are mood readers wouldn't want to read it around this time of year. It doesn't really matter to me. It would have been better around Christmas time, but I am also trying to gear up for that time so I can have some recommendations for you guys when it gets closer. I don't want to wait till it's too late. So we squozed it in this month. This book takes place in Indiana. It's a snowy night, blizzard. And there's a diner where a bunch of people stop. There's some of them who are like regulars of the town. This is where they always stop at Christmas time. They go visit the owner of the restaurant. They even give him some presents. So it really gave the nice Christmassy vibes if you celebrate Christmas. And then we have two other drivers who we follow, get their perspective. They're on the road and things happen to they end up at this diner as well. And so they're all in there huddled up and everything. And then things start to go wrong. This is a story dealing with aliens. And I was just happy, first of all, that there's an alien on the cover and the story had to do with an alien, because I have been burnt by that before in the past. I'm not going to name names. If you check out my mid-year wrap-up tag video, you will know what I'm talking about. But anyway, this one does have aliens. And I will say it was fast-paced. It was, I was entertained. I got through it. Hello. Yeah, it was nothing spectacular. It was entertaining. I would recommend it for the Christmas winter season. There was lots of blood and gore and death and mayhem and all that good stuff. It had a nice little ending. The author even put a little note to the readers at the end, which made me laugh. I liked that. My only complaint was that there were a lot of grammatical errors throughout, which were kind of throwing me off as I was reading because I was trying to correct the grammar as I was going along. And I don't know why, because this book came along a little bit later for him. I thought this was like one of his first books, but no. So the editor just dropped the ball, I guess. But other than that, like I said, it was good. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Like I said, it was enjoyable. It was good for my birthday. And as I said, it's good for Christmas, winter time. So again, I recommend it. And for the mini Evilathon, that satisfies the prompt that is Community, a horror book by self-published / indie published author, because The Visitor is self-published by Sergio Gomez. So that satisfied that prompt. Let's move on. Okay. Next up was probably one of the books I was most looking forward to reading for my birthday month. I knew it was going to be fun. I started the month off with that book because I was just like, oh, yes, finally. And that would be Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. If you don't know, this is a book that was published in the 80s when I was a child. And I read the first Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book when I was a child. I read it many times. Me and my brother loved this book. And this one, Scary Stories Treasury, has 3 of them bound up into one. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and Scary Stories 3, More Tales to Chill Your Bones. This one also fits Kasha's Evilathon prompt number 1, childhood. A spooky middle grade you have been meaning to check out for some time. So that fits that one. And I was happy because, again, I had already done my TBR, but when I saw her video, a lot of my books fit. So I was like, yay, I can participate. I really enjoyed this book. Going back through it, it was just so much fun. This book is just perfect for spooky season, especially if you have little kids or little nieces and nephews, little cousins, babysit, anything like that. A lot of these stories, he put instructions for how to read them, where to do the scare. And so it's fun to read, like for ghost stories, because, you know, sometimes it's hard to make up your own story. So they're already done right here for you. I had extra fun with this because I read a lot of it aloud to my daughter and my cat. And it just made it so much better reading it out loud. And especially when I was reading them to my daughter, getting her feedback on them. So that was fun. The first one, as I said, was just great. I knew it was going to be great. A lot of my favorites are from the first book. I was actually surprised that because I've seen the movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I've talked about it. It's in my top horror movies video if you haven't seen it yet. But I was surprised that the stories in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark were from the various books, not all from the first book. I knew when I saw the movie, I didn't remember all the stories. I just thought I didn't remember well. But no, because they come from all 3 books, which was cool. If you don't know as well, Stephen Gamble or Gamel, I'm not sure how to say his name, but he does the illustrations for the book, including, of course, the front. And I mean, these are famous illustrations. They are just the icing on the cake when you are reading this book or books. I just loved it. Now, I will say the second one, More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I didn't have as much fun with that one. It was okay. You can go to my Goodreads. I broke down my favorite ones from each book. But yeah, the second one was just okay. It was like I found like 3 stories I liked. And I had like 3 favorites and then like 2 that I liked. And the rest were just okay. A lot of them, for some reason, in the second book just left off where it was like, that's the end? Okay. Because I was reading them, a lot of them to my daughter. And she was even like, that was the end of the story? I was like, I guess so. Moving on. The third Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book, More Tales to Chill Your Bones, that one was also good. And so the way I rated them, I gave them each their own separate star rating, and then I averaged them out, and that's how I came up with my total rating for the Treasury book. So for the first one, of course, I gave it 5 stars. I mean, to me, it's just everything. The second one, I gave 3 stars. Like I said, I still enjoyed it, but the stories just weren't as good as the first one. And then the last one, I gave 4 stars. So it averaged out to 4 out of 5 stars. As I said, I really enjoyed it. Overall, I recommend this, as I said, for spooky season, any time of the year, really. I'm probably even going to reread some of these stories for Halloween time because why not? It's me. Moving on. So a lot of the times when I DNF books, that takes some off of my list that I plan to read. And, you know, once I get my library books, then I just rely on my Kindle or Kindle Unlimited. So I was like, let me comb through my Kindle and see what else I have on here. Something that's a little bit shorter that, I'm pretty sure I will enjoy. And this book I actually heard from on Kasha's channel, and that would be The Boy Who Cried Werewolf by J.H. Reynolds. This is part of the Monster Street series, so this is book number 1. I started in order. Why not? This also fulfills the first prompt in Kasha's mini Evilathon, the spooky middle grade book, so both of those fit. And I will read you a little bit about it because I haven't talked about it previously on my channel. I had it on my TBR, but it wasn't at the top. So I'll just tell you a little bit about it, or I'll read the synopsis quickly. Max Blood Knight can't decide what's more terrifying about his weekend in Wolf County. The fact that he has to stay with grandparents he's never met before, or being stuck on a farm without cell service. If only that was all he had to fear. Determined to solve the mystery of his father's death, which occurred years before at the claws of a legendary werewolf, Max must hunt to uncover the truth before the full moon rises and the werewolf strikes again. So this was, it was kind of a mystery. Max, the main character, he goes to stay at his grandparents' house. His mother leaves him there for like 3 days. And she's like, I'll be back. And he's like, I don't really know them like that, but okay. And of course, because they're, they live on a farm, like it said, there's no cell phone service. They're just like, we work. It's what we do. So anyway, there is this mystery of there is a werewolf out there, or maybe not. And who is this werewolf? And then there's also another mystery that the grandparents discuss and the mom discusses, and you're kind of like, what are they talking about? I will say I was able to predict. I mean, it's middle grade, so it wasn't that difficult. I was able to predict what the mystery was or the twists and all of that. But I still had a lot of fun with this book. It was very enjoyable, quick read. I wanted to keep going back to it to find out what happened to Max. I believe from what I remember, the chapters were short. That's always a plus. So of course, shorter chapters, you just want to keep flipping. It wasn't scary, of course, because werewolves, you really got to make them scary to be creepy. And I mean, they're not going to really go too far with a middle grade book. So it wasn't scary or creepy for me, but it was a nice little cozy horror book, which is just, sometimes perfect. My only complaint was there were parts that had to do with hunting and, animal death and stuff like that. I'm not really here for that, so I could have used less of that or not at all. I understand the purpose when it had to do with the werewolf aspect of the story, but like I said, I could have done with a little bit less of that. But other than that, I rather enjoyed it, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. So, all in all, we are doing well. Wouldn't you say? Yes. So far, good birthday month. Let's keep it going. Okay, before I move on to my 5-star reads, let me just wrap up my progress with the mini Evilathon, the forgotten ones. I did do the first prompt, as I said, childhood. Catching up, a horror sequel you were excited about and then never read. I used my Scary Stories books 2 and 3 for that one. So yes, let's cross that off. As I said, Community, the self-published book, that was The Visitor. Then there was also Dusty One, a horror book you've had on your TBR for a long time. That's a lot of these, my Scary Stories, The Visitor. So check. And then she had Play It Already, which is watch a horror movie you've been postponing for way too long. If you saw my June TBR video, I talked about watching The Conspiracy. And well, that didn't happen, but Kasha said she just wants you to watch a horror movie. So I did, which is also why I didn't get to The Conspiracy, because I ended up seeing The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, or whatever it's called. Yeah. It was okay. Like I'm sure you've heard, I was disappointed. It was my least favorite of the Conjuring series. We just gonna act like it didn't happen, but I did watch a horror movie, so I did all of the prompts for the mini Evilathon. Yay! I extended a little bit past a week, but that's all right. I did it. So now let's move on to my 5-star books. First up for my 5-star book. This was a 5-star prediction, and I'm glad I was right. That would be The Passengers by John Mars. Yes, yes, yes. I read the one and I loved it. I did a review. I will post it down below. But I was hoping that this one was just as good as the one. And I had heard people say this one was better. So I was hopeful. I also heard it was darker. So I was a little bit nervous because, there's certain things I just don't want to read about. And I had heard some of those things were in this book. So I was worried. I was nervous. But I was like, I'm going to have faith in you, John Mars, because there was a serial killer in the one and he handled that pretty well. So I was, again, hopeful for this book. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this because I talked about it a little bit in my reading vlog, but and I also went over the synopsis in my June TBR video, so I'm not going to do that either. But basically, just short and sweet, this book is about there are 8 people who get into these self-driving cars. This is speculative fiction, so this is not based in reality. It is from John Mars's imagination. But in this book, self-driving cars are on their way to becoming law. This takes place in the UK. And there are a lot of people who already have them. They're basically like phasing out. They have levels of cars. So there's like a level 1 car, level 2, that may be what they were called. Basically level 1 is like old school, you know, no technology. And then all the way up to like level 5, level 6. I don't remember which one, but that's when it's fully autonomous. And so 8 people in this book get into these fully autonomous cars. A voice comes over the speaker and tells them that they are not going to survive the day. And they try to get out the car. The doors are locked. They can't roll down the windows or push the button to get the window to go down. They are trapped. And then also a privacy like tent covers the window so people can't see in, to see them like flipping out and panicking. Woo, Lord, just thinking about it. But so the beginning of the book sets up, we find out about like 4 or 5 of the passengers of the book. It gives us a little bit about them and like how their day starts and how they get into the car. That part of a book is always kind of tricky because you're kind of like, I don't know these people, who are they? And why are we just jumping in, being thrown in midway of their day or whatever? But you just got to go along, you know, make sure, you know, pay attention, try to. And then it's also all these different names. So it's like, am I supposed to remember these people? And then we get a character named Libby who goes about her day as well, except she does not get into one of these self-driving cars because she's not here for them. She instead has some kind of secret thing she's doing where she goes somewhere that she doesn't want her coworkers to know about, and it's a place that she's not happy about. I did say in my vlog, and I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but it ends up being that she's on this jury duty service where they are in charge of deciding if accident involving one of these self-driving cars is the fault of the passenger, because they're not a driver, or the AI that is controlling the car. So they have like 4 or 5 people that they pick who are experts in their field, like law and medical and stuff like that. Then they pick one civilian at random to be on this jury, and Libby is the one chosen to be on the jury when we join her in the story. And so at first I was like, why are we following her? What's the deal? But then she is very important. She ends up being the main character of the story that you end up following most of the time. And oh my goodness, it was so good. So good. I want to thank Bintu from Reads with Bintu for talking about this book. She convinced me to finally read it, not talking to me, but when she did a video describing the book and some of the things she had to say about it, because I had already heard about it. But when I saw her video, I was like, all right, I'm going to check it out. And I'm so glad I did. I'm just glad I discovered John Mars altogether. Can we just say that? Yes. But this book was so intense. I mean, holding my breath, on the edge of my seat. It was dark. This is not for the faint of heart. There are many deaths, and the first couple were like, I mean, I could have teared up if I had known those characters more, but it was still just so intense and just, whew, if it was a movie, because the thing is, they're all in these cars for a reason. Each passenger has a secret. When they get trapped in these cars, they are being broadcast on social media, on the news, everything. And the public, along with some other folks, have to decide the fate of these passengers. And it ends up being that only one of them can live. So, I mean, like I said, just so good. And think about if you had to decide if someone lives or dies versus a bunch of other people. Like I said, loved every second of it. I already said 5 stars. I think the next John Mars book I'm going to read is The Minders. I also want to read his other one. I forget the name of it, but I'll put it up here on the screen. I've heard that one is really tough to read in a dark book, but again, I have faith in him, so I think I'm going to give it a chance. This one, the trigger that I was worried about is, I believe, pedophilia. It is mentioned in this book. I do want you to know that, but it wasn't too bad, not for me, and I'm one who is very picky about that kind of stuff. But like I said, I just want to mention it. If you want to know more, you can message me on Instagram, and I can let you know specifically, but like I said, it doesn't go too far because otherwise I wouldn't be here for it. But yes, like I said, 5 stars. I loved it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Moving on. All right, and then I actually have one more book. It's a short little novella. I got a good amount of books packed into this month. I had a couple extra days where I finished early and I was like, let me see if I have any short books that I can read. And I had been hearing about this book. I was reluctant to read it because I knew it was going to be feelings involved and I just wasn't ready for that. But I decided to read this one anyway. And that would be The Houseplant by Jeremy Ray. This book, I saw it on Emily's channel. I believe her channel is M's Book Nook. I call her Emily. We talk back and forth and stuff, so I just feel like she's the homie. But I will put her name up here on the screen, and I will also link her down below. But she did a review on this book and talked about it on Instagram, and I was like, all right, I'm going to read this book. Let me see what she's talking about. And I just loved it. I cried quite a bit. I was a mess when I finished with this book. Let me read you the synopsis and then we'll talk a little more about it. George of Fern doesn't appreciate being bought by Brenda at Garden Palace. And he certainly doesn't appreciate being trapped in her house of humans. He yearns to be with the plants outside in the garden. With time, George learns to trust Brenda and think of her as his human. Then one day, tragedy strikes and George's life will never be the same. What happens when a houseplant loses the thing he never knew he wanted? You'll never look at houseplants the same way again. So true. I have one of my babies here. This is my Jake the snake because it's a snake plant, Sansevieria. I am a plant mom. I have my other one I usually put back here where I took a picture with her on Instagram. Her name is Violet. I'll pop the picture up here. I have my other plants I'm over here looking at. I am not one who was born with a green thumb, but I have learned over the years which plants are better for me, what I can manage, and which ones are not for me. And I actually had a fern once that was not for me. So it's funny reading this book that was about a fern because, the one I had didn't work out so well. But this book, it's more than about a houseplant. It is funny because the things that the houseplant talks about from its perspective, like I said, the things that we think the plant likes, things that he was bothered by in this book. And like I said, it was funny. And then as the synopsis says, when the tragedy part strikes, that is when it gets emotional. And that is when, like I said, the tears just, and I was trying to keep it together. When I finished reading this book, I tried to talk about it with my daughter and I was just a mess. Just couldn't stop crying. And she was laughing at me and everything. And I was just like, leave me alone. So I'm glad I could get it together to talk to you today about it. But yeah, it's a story about love and loss and grief. And it is just so sweet. It's just so, yes, you won't look at your houseplants the same, but I just think you will just think about people you love differently or you'll appreciate them more, period. It was just a nice, sweet little story. Oh, I just loved it. So yeah, 5 stars. 5 stars. I've been in communication with the author. I'm looking forward to reading some of his other books because I just really enjoyed his writing. It's only 32 pages long, so I don't want to say too much, ruin anything, but you should definitely read it, especially if you like emotional stories. And like I said, stories about loss and grief and just love. Cute little stories. Check it out. All right, so that wraps up my June reading month. Overall, it was good. Once we got those DNFs out the way, we were good to go. I hope July is just as good. In August and September, and of course October, I plan to focus on all spooky reads so that hopefully by September, middle, something like that, I can give you guys some spooky reads recommendations. So fingers crossed that works out. But yeah, I'm already starting to try to get my TBR together for August. But July so far is going well. So yeah, let me know in the comments, what was your favorite book you read in the month of June? And again, as I said, if you have any cozy mystery recommendations, please let me know in the comments because as I said, as of right now, I give up. I'm just gonna let that go. So yes, again, I thank you so much for watching and joining my channel. If you are new here, I so appreciate you. I really do. If you don't have a comment, you can just leave me a black heart or any color heart in the comments below. So I just know you watch to the end because I really appreciate it. A lot of people don't, which I don't get because when I watch videos, I always watch to the end. But anyway, I understand people have things to do. But yeah, so again, if you watch to the end, leave me a black heart or any color heart in the comments. I really appreciate it. And that is it. So until next time, snuggle up in your hideaway with a good book, unplug as much as possible, be kind to all kind, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.